It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222, your emails at randykabc@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. Homeownership is a difficult thing to attain in the state of California. If you're lucky enough to already own a home, well, your property values are most likely going to go up and up and up. Because, as we're well aware, the kind of single-family home you probably live in, they don't seem to build these days. So they get more and more in demand. In my neighborhood, which is fairly decent, in the San Fernando Valley, a neighborhood full of single-story, single-family homes that were all built in 1957, which a lot of these were actually built for veterans, which is interesting because like every third home, all the kitchen appliances are like at wheelchair height. So that's pretty cool. And oh gosh, if you look at, you can go far back on like Redfin to see what like the original interior of the house that I'm in today is. Whoever owned the house before us, they painted all the interior walls this lovely gray, and we love it. The interior of this house, when it was originally built in 1957, was pink. My neighbors, who we hang out with all the time across the street, their bathroom is still, well, it used to be. They redid it, but one of their bathrooms was still like all the original stuff, and it was bright yellow. They had some interesting decisions about color schemes in the 50s, pink and yellow. But this neighborhood, which, by the way, I believe there are still some original owners that bought homes here in the early 60s for, I believe, $50,000 to $60,000. And the average price of a home now in this neighborhood is right around a cool $1 million. Again, we're talking about 3-bedroom, single-story homes in the valley. Not anywhere real ritzy, not close to any amenities. Nothing is walkable from here. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could walk to the Balboa Park at Sepulveda Basin, but what? So you can go walk in duck poo? That's what they've got over there. But yeah, if you're lucky enough to get in at a good time, it's going to be great for you. But if you are a first-time home buyer, I don't know what, unless you are lucky enough to have parents or in-laws that can help you with that original down payment, it just seems so out of reach for so many people. How will you ever be able to save up enough money to make that purchase when the starter home is at $900,000? By the way, we bought in 2020, like right as interest rates were starting to go up. So we got very lucky with that. I don't know how anyone gets a mortgage with 6% interest. It just sounds insane to me. I mean, the payments are double what I'm paying right now if we had a mortgage today, which means we're also stuck here. Can't buy another home. Got to pretty much sit on this one because of interest rates, but maybe that will change down the line. Who knows? But the value of our home went up just when we were in escrow, $50,000. And luckily, the people selling to us didn't ask for more money. But the value of this home has gone up quite a bit in the last 5 years, and we haven't done anything to it. It's just the scarcity of homes like this. I haven't done a damn thing to this house, and the value has gone up quite a bit. I have a very close friend. They bought in 2012 at the bottom of the market at a house in the valley for $300,000. And I believe it just sold for over $800,000. It is a wild time to try to get into the homeownership world, which means that we've got to start getting creative. to talk about how difficult it is right now in the state of California, and I'm sure it's true in many other states as well, but I think this is acutely a problem in California: home ownership. Let's figure out how difficult it is for first-time home buyers in Sacramento. Here's a report from Fox 40.
You will see a lot more people put less than 20% down than actually do put 20% down, especially first-time home buyers.
Oh, that's not good. Again, we were lucky. We would never been able to afford this house on my salary and my wife's salary, and we both do pretty well. We, as a wedding present, got help with the down payment. But it was very important to get that 20% down payment because otherwise, and I'm sure you know this, you're paying mortgage insurance and that payment's going to be even more money that's not equity in the home.
Buying a home in California's capital city is expensive. According to Trend Graphics, a real estate data...
By the way, Sacramento should not be that expensive. It's Sacramento.
According to Trend Graphics, a real estate data company, the average for-sale price this year for a single-family home in Sacramento County was $681,000, while the average sold price...
I mean, a lot cheaper than the Bay or LA, but considering it's Sacramento, practically the Central Valley, still seems kind of high.
Average sold price was $611,000, a more than $100,000 increase since 2020 and nearly double for each price since 2015. But that doesn't mean first-time home buyers should be intimidated financially.
If you look at the real estate history, the sooner you could buy has always worked out in your favor. So,
well, yes, because the prices in California only go one direction. Yeah, maybe something like 2008 can happen, but I don't know. It was a very specific blow up of the real estate market, and they don't write those kind of loans anymore.
As long as it makes sense for you and your lifestyle and you're able to afford it, I think it does make sense to buy.
Traditionally, buyers aim to put 20% down on a home, meaning Sacramento area residents would need to save more than $100,000 for a down payment. Or do they?
There's quite a few other programs that our home loan advisors are able to discuss with our members and potential home buyers looking to get in with lower down payments.
Javier Rolón, Golden One Credit Union's manager for home loan production, says you can put down far less than 20%.
About 3.5% we have on an FHA.
Oh boy, so you're going into a house with no equity and you're not going to build anytime soon. I guess if you don't have any other choice.
We have on an FHA program. We also participate with community down payment assistance programs.
But
Although usually a lot of those FHA loans, like the income limits, make it so you couldn't afford it anyway.
But there's no one-size-fits-all answer when deciding between a traditional 20% loan and an FHA loan, because every first-time buyer's financial situation is different. Rolón recommends meeting with an expert who can help you chart the right path.
The best advice would be to consult with a Golden One home loan advisor to get accurate and better information in the home ownership process.
Avenue real estate owner Austin Maynard agrees.
That can really help guide you, make sure that you're setting yourself up for success when buying a property.
Maynard tells Fox 40 there are key differences between a traditional 20% loan and a 3.5% FHA loan that first-time buyers should know.
Yeah, the first difference is one is a way cheaper way to get in, but the payment's going to be much higher.
A traditional loan can lead to lower monthly payments, lower interest rates, and help buyers avoid paying PMI, private mortgage insurance that protects the lender if the borrower stops making payments.
When you put less than 20% down, you're going to pay usually an additional about $250 in that range, extra a month.
And that's money you just eat. Much like your property taxes, you don't see that money ever again.
On the other hand,
you ever break down your mortgage bill, how much of your payment actually goes to principal? Because sometimes it's quite a bummer.
On the other hand, an FHA loan with a smaller down payment can shorten the time it takes to buy and leave buyers with more money in the bank, but with higher monthly payments and interest rates. Still, both Rolón and Maynard say whether you're able to pay...
I would imagine in today's world, anything you can do to get that rate down, that's the most important thing. And of course, people can refi, but you don't know when that's going to happen. Don't buy a house that you're betting on the rates are going to get better in 2 years.
Still, both Rolón and Maynard say whether you're able to pay more or less upfront, don't be intimidated by for-sale prices.
I think as long as you are able to comfortably make those payments, yeah, there's no reason why you shouldn't buy right now.
In Sacramento, covering local news that matters, Noe Anderson, Fox 40 News.
So that's the difficulties, and this is true in Southern California, Northern California, and of course, Sacramento. It's a really tough time if you're a first-time home buyer, if you do not have generational wealth behind you, if you don't have parents or in-laws that can help with that original payment. In fact, I talk to so many people in my age range. I don't know anyone, any of them, that were able to buy a home on their own. It's just way different than it is now. And yeah, there's these programs of like, you get a separate loan for the down payment, but now you're paying two loans. Again, it's a really, really great club to be in, but the barrier to entry is getting higher by the day. And I guess that's why this plan got floated this week from the federal government, although I'm not sure this is really going to help. I don't know if you've heard about this. You probably have a 30-year mortgage. Maybe you have a 15. Maybe you're doing what I do. A friend of ours told us to do this. If you get a 30-year mortgage and you can figure out a way to make like one extra payment a month, which we break down, we pay like an extra $500 principal every month, and that adds up to one or two payments. That 30-year mortgage will turn into a 15-year or a 17-year. It's wild. The amount of money that just goes into interest, even when you have a rate in the twos, is just mind-boggling. Well, that's with a 30-year mortgage. This week, the federal government floated an idea. How about a 50-year mortgage? What is this about? For more, here's KTVU Fox 2.
Over the weekend, President Trump endorsed a suggestion to create 50-year-long mortgages, 60% longer than the traditional 30-year mortgages, all as a part of an effort to combat higher home prices and interest rates.
So most people these days, it's not that they're 30 when they get into a home. It's when they're 40 they get into a home. So if you get a 30-year at 40, maybe by 70, the house is paid off unless you had some windfalls in your life and you could pay it off early. Let's say you didn't and you were only able to make the main payment. A 50-year mortgage, you're paying it off when you're 90.
Well, that drew a lot of criticism after the increased cost to home buyers were actually calculated. KTVU's Tom Vakar joins us from San Rafael with those numbers and the pretty dramatic numbers, Tom.
Very interesting numbers. Now, though many people actually do inherit homes these days that have some mortgage on them, if this goes through, a lot more people...
Yeah, it used to be you inherit a house, and what do you know? You get a house. Now you get a mortgage that you inherited.
If this goes through...
And bless you if your parents fell into that reverse mortgage thing.
If this goes through, a lot more people would inherit those kinds of homes with a lot more debt on them. The president appears to think that a 50-year mortgage that's 600 monthly payments is worth it.
Whoa. Okay, that number in itself, that is daunting.
All it means is you pay less per month. You pay it over a longer period of time. It's not even a big deal. I mean, you know, you go from 40 to 50 years.
For home buyers, it is a very big deal. We spoke with some Larkspur Ferry passengers.
I think it's kind of a crazy idea, in particular because of how much interest you pay over that entire life of the loan. So if it were me, I would not be interested in that.
Why pay even more than you have to? I mean, if you work it out over 30 years versus 50 years, I'm sure it's a lot more expensive for you.
Minor.
Aussie or Brit? Welsh? Maybe Welsh. My Love Island senses are tingling.
Solution to a very major problem, particularly when you think about the additional interest you're paying over 50 years. It's completely not worth it.
Fifth Gabadian is Senior Vice President of Lending at Origin Point Lending, writing loans for a quarter century.
50 is brand new. Have not heard of it. This is completely new.
There is one...
We just only recently started to hear of a 40-year loan, but a 50-year loan. My goodness.
There is one major plus.
The advantage of the 50-year mortgage is that it reduces your monthly payments, so it's easier to qualify for a purchase of a house.
The payment is about 13% less expensive.
I think if...
Okay, hold on. Let me just do some math here. Okay, I'm just going to put in the calculator what my wife and I are paying for our mortgage right now, which includes our home insurance that has skyrocketed over the last 5 years in our non-wildfire zone, and our property insurance that just went up. Okay, so it's 13% cheaper. So I take my payment, I multiply that by 0.13. Now I minus my payment. Okay. All right, here's the trade that you have to make. Your mortgage payment is going to be $400 a month cheaper. That sounds pretty good. $400 a month? You can do a lot with that. That's like 2 dinners. All right, your mortgage payment, $400 a month cheaper. Although I think the interest rate would be higher. So maybe it's not $400 a month cheaper, but let's say it's $400 a month cheaper. You're going to save $400 every month. But you're going to be making that payment for another 20 years on top of the 30. I don't know about this.
The payment is about 13% less expensive.
I think if you're lowering your monthly, you could possibly be freeing up more cash for other things and for other expenses that you may have.
But, says Gobadian, it's way more expensive in the long run. On a 30-year $1 million loan at 6% interest, you'd pay $2,160,000 in principal and interest. But over 50 years, the buyer...
By the way, that in itself with the 6% rate is insane. Even with a 2% rate, when you see how much interest you pay over the life of a loan, it hurts. It really hurts. But again, if you borrow $1 million at 6% over 30 years, you're going to be paying over $2 million. How about the 50-year loan?
The buyer pays $3,160,000, $1 million more.
So take whatever the price is of the house you're looking to buy and triple it, because that's how much you'll be paying over 50 years if you went down this path. Is that worth it for a smaller monthly payment? I don't know. I mean, obviously you can refi when your situation improves, and maybe that's the idea here. I don't know.
And you'll spend a lot more time underwater with a 50-year as you gather equity far slower. That's because payments in the early years go mostly to interest, not paying off the principal.
They probably assume everyone's going to refi in 5 years, so they're making sure you don't accumulate any equity those first few years. I think we've accumulated like 50 in principal and equity in the last 5 years that we've had this house. Let me just check the old mortgage app, the old mortgage dashboard. Not even 50 yet. Maybe by the end of the year, it'll be closer to 50. And again, that's with us making these extra principal payments when we can afford them. But yeah, it takes a long time to build up equity with a 30. With a 50, good luck.
You don't want to keep this loan for that period. It's a starter loan to get you to qualify.
Also, if the whole concept is you're buying a house that you will never be able to pay off, at what point is renting just the better option and you invest your money elsewhere?
You don't want to keep this loan for that period. It's a starter loan to get you to qualify, and you want to get out of it.
In other words, refinance when rates go down for less interest and a shorter loan. And especially note this.
75% of people sell or refinance within the first 5 years.
Since most first-time home buyers now average 40 years of age, it would take until their early 90s to pay it off.
And it doesn't address the housing affordability crisis whatsoever.
Well, nothing is going to address that.
Now, this is neither etched in stone or law, but when you think about it, 40-year loans are already available if you didn't know that. But this is a step much, much further. Claudine, back to you.
And Tom, as you just...
So there is the latest idea being floated by the feds in order to help more people attain that almost impossible dream of being able to afford to buy a house. Let's open up the phones right now. 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Do you think the prospect of a 50-year mortgage is a good idea? What do you think about this idea of 50-year mortgages for homes? 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. If you've got a mortgage right now, you've got an opinion on this, so give us a call. 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. Let's start with Ray in Redondo. Ray, hello.
Hi. Well, here's the deal. The 50-year enables you to get into the property, and properties go up over time with inflation. My first two houses, I had roommates to help cover the mortgage, because I was freaking about what the payment would be. So I got a couple of buddies to live with me, and that helped offset it. And when I got divorced, I told my ex if she didn't buy a house, she'd get priced out of town. And so 15 years ago, she bought a house 5 blocks from the beach. Her payment, she was complaining about her payment of $2,700. $2,700. That property now would rent for $8,000 a month. Rents go up over time with inflation. Your payment stays fixed when you buy a house, and you can always refinance it later. And then if you buy your first house, you go in there and you fix it up, and then you sell it and you move and you keep stepping up and up and up. Then you get there. Like if you could remodel a bathroom, you could do anything in the house. So you got to learn those skills and fix them all up. I'm in my 5th house. The goal is to get in. Also, you want to buy when interest rates are high, because that puts downward pressure on the pricing of the house. When interest rates drop, refi. That's a great hack, because when the rates drop, then everyone starts bidding up the properties. Everyone goes, oh, I'm going to get a really low rate, but they spend more for the house, which offsets it. So I'd rather
interesting.
buy.
I haven't thought about it that way. Ray, thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. It's getting harder and harder for people to buy their first homes. And now this idea has emerged. A 50-year home loan. What do you think? Good idea? Not so good idea. 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. If you're on hold, stay there. We're getting right back to your calls in a bit. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. Your emails at randykabc@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. All right, the phone lines are loaded. Let's go. The idea, more people got to be able to buy houses. So the federal government has floated this idea. How about a 50-year mortgage? What do you think? Good idea? Not so good idea. Let's start with Warren in Riverside. Warren, hello.
Hey, I just bought a house in Arizona because I'm working on my exit strategy from California. But I have zero debt. I've got really good credit. My house, and I put a lot of money down. My house payment is $417 a month. My interest is $550. That's how high at 6.5%, what your interest rate is. So, when people are house shopping, they don't really consider what things cost. But yeah, my interest is $100 higher a month than my house payment. So, and that's at 6.5%. So I don't know what people would do. If you're paying, $500,000 for a house, which is, a small house in an okay neighborhood in California, I have no idea how you would make house payments. It's insane.
I'm looking, Warren, at my monthly payment, and it's the same thing. I pay $100 more a month in interest than we do in the principal.
Yeah, that's the way mine is. I couldn't even afford to buy the house I live in. Luckily, I bought it in '91 when I could afford it. But yeah, that's when people start house shopping. First of all, you got to get out of California. If you don't have a lot of ties in California, there's no real reason to live here. In Arizona, and it's a nice house in a nice neighborhood, but when you start looking at what they get you for taxes, my property tax in California on a 1,200 square foot house just went up. So I'm at $3,900 a year for that. The one in Arizona is only $1,800, and it's a 2,000 square foot house. California acts like, even when you rent something, like the realtor's screwing you. No, the state of California is screwing you, and they're screwing the guy that, you rent your house from. So, I just kind of wanted to say, if you can get out of California, you can get a way better house for half of the amount of money. The house I live in Redlands has gone up about $60,000 in about 8 months. I mean, that's how
wild.
crazy it is. And they're selling them. I don't know how
they are.
Them,
There's always going to be someone willing to buy in California. So if you own and you want to get out, it's a good move for you. Make sure you still listen to us on this stream because the radio in Phoenix sucks. Thanks so much for the call, Warren. Appreciate it. Let's go to Frank in Glendale. Frank, hello.
Hey, Randy, how are you? Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a good idea. I mean, the amount of interest you'd be paying over that time is unbelievable. But, I guess that's where you are. One thing my wife and I have been dealing with is rising homeowners insurance. So our mortgage keeps going up. One thing we've done is we do a recast, and a lot of people don't know that's available to you, but you could throw $10,000 down against your principal, and the bank will reset your mortgage so it goes down a little bit, making it, easier to pay off the mortgage. That said, I know you pay extra. A lot of people pay extra, and they don't do the recast. I'm wondering if you had a feeling about doing a recast and keeping the 30, or what's better, paying off principal every month and just getting the mortgage to be shorter. I'm trying to decide which is actually better.
Yeah, for myself, I'm not sure because I think it depends on how long you plan on staying in the home. And, if I had my way, I'd be moving to New Mexico in a year. So I have no idea what really makes sense. But as far as I can think about it, making a principal payment is just like putting money in the bank. Yeah,
I think so. And I feel like if I can get the mortgage down, like I've been having, work problem issues, and it just makes it easier, us doing the recast, the mortgage comes down. It's like less stress having that mortgage because we started out, I think our mortgage was $2,300. With rising homeowners insurance, we're back up to $2,800. And it's amazing how you think you're fixed and then it keeps going up, which is bizarre to me. So we recast to make it easier. I could just not even imagine a 50-year mortgage where you're paying all interest for 25 years? It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to take them up on this, but maybe it'll help somebody if they're going to refi in 5 years. Thanks so much for the call, Frank. Appreciate it. Let's go to David in Orange County. David, hello.
Hey, Randy. Appreciate all you do for us, and you have a great forum. I'm a little bit on the opposite side of this. So I have some stats to drop on you regarding kind of the unaffordability of housing. Most people today don't buy based off where the rate is. They buy where their payment is, where they can actually afford it. So while a 50-year mortgage does increase the amount of interest you're going to pay substantially over the life of the loan, doing things like the last caller said or you've done by paying down your note a little bit more per month, recasting the mortgage is also helpful. But some things to note, basically since 2000, the median age for people to buy a home across the country has increased from 31 years old to 40 years old. Also, there's been a 32% increase in the overall median household cost for a median house cost in the United States. And then since 1959 to 2002, the average cost of a house in the U.S. was 4.51 times higher than the yearly household income. Now, that number is north of 7x. So these are dramatic cost differences. People are not able to afford the homes that they are in. We've seen a lower inventory of homes substantially in this period of time. But just to give you some just general data, people can all look this up. This is all available on the Department of Labor. But there's been a 52% increase in the median home price from 2010 to 2020. And from 2020 to 2025, there's been a 40% increase. So people can't afford to be in their homes anymore. if they are trying to buy, especially first-time home buyers. So this is a way to try to get people back in the housing market and help to also stimulate the economy. Now, I don't recommend it if you don't have the ability to buy a home and put a substantial down payment in place. But I would say that the people who want to be in a home that can afford to put a little bit more per month down and reduce that interest rate exposure over the term of the loan would actually be in a good position to do so. So that's my 2 cents and just some knowledge for your audience.
Well, I really, really appreciate all that advice. Very knowledgeable. Thanks so much for the call, David. Let's go to Greg in Newport. Greg, hello.
Hi, Randy. One of the things, just to tag on to the previous caller, wouldn't you like to be paying 40 years from now your loan off with 40 years from now dollars? And I'll give you for instance, I stretched to be able to buy my house, my first house at the beach, and my payment was $833. And here it is 30 years later. What is that 833? Kind of as you mentioned earlier, it's 3 dinners. Whereas before it was all I could do to find $833 a month. So, we start thinking about, okay, what's today's dollar worth? What's this going to be worth in 30 years? Well, that's what you're paying. You're borrowing on today's dollar, but you're paying it off with tomorrow's dollar, which is worth way less. So that's my bonus on that.
It's like my points for all my rewards programs. If you don't use them, the value only goes down.
Yeah, and what you're trying to do is use as much points as you can, so get in the air.
That's what I'm doing. Thanks so much for the call, Greg. Appreciate it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. What do you think about this idea of a 50-year mortgage? If you're on hold, stay on hold. More of your calls coming up in just a minute. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's go to Rod in L.A. Rod, hello.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
Doing great.
I personally don't think there's anything wrong with a 50-year, 40 or 50-year mortgage. I used to wonder why it wasn't out years ago. And let me tell you why. I think most people are concerned about their payment, and then also you can refinance at some point. I know that if I have my own house right now, my interest rate is only 2.8%, but I think that people would rather live in a house than pay rent $4,000 or $5,000 a month living here in Los Angeles for like a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. And I think that people want to own something. So if they can afford to get into a house for that many years, of course, like I say, you can refinance just to get into it where you can afford to pay the payment and the taxes. I think people would do that.
Oh, it's an interesting perspective. Thanks so much for the call, Rod. Appreciate it. Let me do this before I forget. Hey, look at this, everyone. 790 KABC welcomes Billy Gibbons and the BFG Band at the City National Grove of Anaheim, January 25th, 2026. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-795-222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Nederlander Concerts. Good luck dialing. We'll get the rest of your calls when we come back. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Back to the phones we go. Robert and Downey. Robert, hello.
Yes, I was calling because I've been hearing everybody talking about the mortgages and so forth, but nobody sees ahead of time. Everybody that buys homes is in their 30s, 40 years old. But 30, 40 years from now, how old are you going to be? Are you still going to be able to afford that loan? This is a program that's set for people to buy homes, but never actually own them. By the time that you're old, you're not going to be able to enjoy the house. You're going to be too old, and you're not going to be able to afford it. You're going to get kicked out of your house. You're going to be forced to sell it, and then the cycle is going to repeat itself for somebody that's younger again and take over your house and start the whole cycle. People are just blinded to see like, oh, I'm going to own a house, but you're not going to own it because what you're paying in mortgage is a lot more than if you just rented the house, because technically that's what you're doing. You're just renting the house at a higher rate than if you just rented it from an owner.
It's a good point. Thanks so much for the call, Robert. Appreciate it. Let's go to Ted in La Cañada. Ted, hello.
Hi, Randy. I grew up when I was an adult in the San Fernando Valley, and my wife's uncles built scads of homes in the valley under the government return from war plan. They were all 10,000, maybe at least 15 for something extravagant. When I bought my first home, which was 68, I paid $34,000 for a 4,000 square foot home, a 1,200 square foot guest house, a swimming pool, an area where I could have our horses. That was then. In I'm trying to think, I think it was 80, I sold it. I sold it for $270,000. So that was the difference is inflation. And you can go for a 50-year loan as long as you can pay for it, but bear in the back of your mind you're going to have to sell it. It's so simple. You can make so much money in real estate just by flipping. It is really unreal. So
I think you make a strong point, Ted. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. George in Laguna. George, you got 30 seconds. Go.
I'm for it, but with the caveat, depending on the rate. I mean, if I can borrow at 5% or less for 30 years or 50 years, keep my money liquid and put it in the market and get 10% historically a year. Why would I want to pay off the house? Plus, I get a tax deduction on my return every year.
That's a good point. We're hearing a lot of people do that. Thanks so much for the call. All right, David in Diamond Bar, you're for it? He's for it. Thank you all so much for listening. It was an incredibly interesting discussion. We'll talk again soon. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.